Good morning, everybody. I'm very happy to welcome Professor Sadaf Munshi from the University of North Texas, United States of America. It's indeed a double joyful moment for us because she is in India with us. She is in Srinagar, Kashmir. We wanted to invite her for an in-person talk too. I hope we will get a chance to do that. As you are all aware, we are still continuing the lecture series of the 53rd Foundation Day of the Central Institute of Indian Languages. This is the 33rd lecture. Sadaf has agreed to speak on vowel harmony in Kashmiri, which is one of the most important topics as far as Kashmiri grammar is concerned. Let me take this opportunity to welcome our star speaker of today. Dr. Sadaf Munshi is a professor and former chair of the Department of Linguistics at the UNT, Texas. As most of you know, she did her education in India is mainly in linguistics at University of Delhi, Masters and MPhil also at the University of Delhi in 1999 and 2001. In 2006, she obtained her PhD in linguistics from the University of Texas at Austin. She has held several positions in Austin. She was a teaching assistant at her own Department of Linguistics for a few years before she moved on to University of Maryland, where she was involved in contents object selector for Urdu reading and also assessment objects developer for Urdu reading in the National Foreign Language Center. After that, she moved to UNT from 2006 to 2013. She was holding the post of assistant professor and then moved on, and now she is a professor at the same place, University of North Texas. She has been affiliated with several institutions, and most importantly, she is a member of the Internal Advisory Board of the Contemporary Arab and Muslim Cultural Studies Institute at the UNT. She has been awarded with several grants and fellowships from various places, mainly from the United States, to work on many languages because she specializes on Indo-Iranian languages and has a strong background in Kashmiri, Burshakshi, Mankiali, Hindi, Urdu, Romani, Sanskrit, and Persian. She is involved in language documentation, also does work on historical and comparative linguistics, language contact, language and conflict, text and discourse analysis, poetics, verbal arts, phonology, syntax, and many other related disciplines. As part of her research on the documentation project, Dr. Munshi has worked for more than 2 decades in India and Pakistan. Her grants are from National Science Foundation for different projects like Archive of Annotated Burshakshi Texts, and another project is Jammu and Kashmir Burshakshi Language Contact and Change. She has also been awarded with intramural grants and funding at the UNT to work on Kashmiri oral history and all other narratives related to Kashmir conflict. There are many awards and many more grants bestowed on her. She was also a recipient of R.N. Srivastava Gold Medal from University of Delhi. She also grants from South Asia Institute at Austin. Many grants have been there, and her publications also are several. I would like to mention at least some of her important works. Her book on a reference grammar of Srinagar, Burshakshi, I believe it is in print and going to be published by Brill. or maybe it is already out. I may have
It's
not.
already published.
It is already published. Thanks for that update. And she has contributed to different aspects of Kashmiri, like poetic traditions, metrical structure, syllable codes. Of course, we are going to hear more on phonology from her now. Syntax as well, several invited publications in Encyclopedia of Language and Linguistics for Indo-Aryan languages, Kashmiri, Dardic, and many more. It's a long list and her CV runs several pages. It's indeed a great pleasure and honor for us to have you with us today. And also, I would like to mention here the outcomes of her documentation work on Urshakshi and Mankiali are available in the form of digital corpora, which is housed, of course, at the University of North Texas. As some of you know, they are doing a beautiful job of digital archiving. The larger goal of her research is to build lasting collaborations, infrastructure, and capacity in several areas which pose a number of social, political, cultural challenges and obstacles. She has been teaching various subjects: historical linguistics, phonology, field methods, language documentation, history of English language, world Englishes, Romani language and culture, and many more. Indeed, a great moment for us, Sadaf, to have you here and speak to us on vowel harmony in Kashmiri, a diachronic approach. I also welcome the audience who are present here on a Friday morning, leaving everything else behind to listen to Sadaf. The floor is yours, Sadaf.
Thank you very much, Oma. I'm really glad to be with all of you today. It's kind of a nostalgic moment and to see some of the people that I've known for so many years. And also speaking from here in Kashmir, this paper, the work on this paper started many, many years ago when I was in Delhi University with Professor Prem Singh, who's no longer with us. And he was my supervisor. And I was working under his supervision on my MPhil thesis, which was on the development of Kashmiri vowels, vowel system. And this is like kind of an extension of some of that work. So the title of this talk is Vowel Harmony in Kashmiri, a Diachronic Approach. Some of the theoretical background I will start with. Autosegmental phonologists propose certain phonological processes which involve two vowels showing agreement in the value of a particular feature. One of the foundational studies in that is Goldsmith 1999. Such a model incorporates the notion of feature spreading, and we observe an agreement of features within a particular domain so that all the vowels within this domain must share the same value for a particular feature or a number of features. Vowel harmony is thus the assimilation of vowels to weightier or trigger vowels across phonemic boundaries. Such phenomena are characteristic of many languages belonging to different language families. For example, Assamese, Akan, Bangla, Hungarian, Telugu, Turkish, Yoruba, and Yawalmani. Turkish and Yawalmani vowel harmony has been one of the, two of the most studied and talked about in literature. So common phonological features characterizing the natural classes of vowels involved in vowel harmony are backness, height, nasalization, roundedness, and advanced and retracted tongue growth. While many previous studies have treated such phenomena as purely phonological, more recent studies, such as Finley 2009, have examined morphologically triggered vowel harmony in languages such as Korean and Asturian, and perhaps others as well. The main aim of today's talk is to provide a description and analysis of vowel harmony in Kashmiri, which is an Indo-Aryan language belonging to the so-called Dardic group, spoken in the Kashmir Valley of India and also parts of Pakistan. The analysis indicates that, I'm sorry about the noise, outside, I don't have any control on that. The analysis indicates that the operation is morphophonological in nature and occurs when a suffix consisting of a high vowel triggers assimilation in the vowel of the preceding stem. Here's one example, lot, which means light, as in weight, not light. So light, masculine singular, and then lut, light, feminine singular. The reconstructed form that I propose for these two words is lat-u and latti. The change may also involve consonantal assimilation in specific environments, as we see in lot and lut, and but also in mot and mut. Mot is crazy person, masculine singular. Mut, crazy person, feminine singular. We can compare this type of change with vowel assimilation in English. For example, the word foot versus feet, which comes from the historical series of changes. Many changes have occurred in this set, which started from foetus to foti, foot, fate, and feet. The conditioning environment in Kashmiri vowel harmony is essentially a high vowel of the suffix, which marks masculine or feminine. Although a variety of consonantal changes accompany this change, morphophonological vowel harmony is the primary focus of this study. Some important facts and background. The morphemic trigger of vowel harmony is opaque on the surface. That means it is not on the surface form of the words. It's not visible, leaving systematic phonological changes which are not visible at the surface level. We do not see the trigger vowel, the vowel that triggers harmony on the surface. So we have words like mot and mut, which are derived from mat plus u and mat plus e, respectively. However, the u, final u and e are not there anymore. They have, because of further phonological changes or historical changes, we only see mot and mut and not that following vowel, which I propose in this study as a triggering vowel. Though Grierson, they're present in Grierson's 1990 transcriptions as matra vowel, it is unclear whether these morphemes were being realized phonetically at that time. If you look at Grierson's data or Grierson's data on Kashmiri, you will see some superscribed vowels, which Grierson calls matra vowels, and they are not pronounced. I do not know whether they were pronounced at that point. I doubt if they were pronounced, but maybe they were present in the speaker's phonology. In this study, as a future goal, we also aim to look at or determine if the suffixes are present in the modern underlying forms and are elided superficially, or if they have been deleted entirely. So the methodology and approach we use in this study is both synchronic and diachronic. Using a synchronic approach, modern Kashmiri forms were analyzed in various different contexts. A comparative analysis or cross-linguistic or analysis was performed on data from Kashmiri with cognates in some modern Indo-Aryan languages, Middle Indo-Aryan languages, in Middle Indo-Aryan and in the Old Indo-Aryan forms, to show a pattern of vowel changes triggered by what is essentially a gender marking suffix. The analyses are based on vowel as well as consonant alternations found in different morphophonological forms of nouns, adjectives, as well as verbs. The main objectives and outcomes, the paper takes a close look at the development of modern Kashmiri vowels from a historical point of view. If you know about the vowel systems of Indo-Aryan, many Indo-Aryan languages have almost, if you look at the Sanskrit vowel system, it's a 10 vowel system. But Kashmiri has various additional vowels. So the vowel inventory in Kashmiri is larger than most of the other Indo-Aryan languages, modern Indo-Aryan languages. So I propose that vowel harmony has a good role to play in that, in the addition of those vowels. We observe that the outcomes of vowel harmony can help explain some of the diachronic changes affecting various stem vowels in Kashmiri. The study also helps explain a number of assimilatory changes in the Kashmiri consonantal system, which is not necessarily the focus of this paper. However, it does explain those as well. So here's a chart with Kashmiri vowel inventory. If you see, there are front, central, and back vowels, which are classified as high, mid-low, and low. So you have e, u as the high vowels. Mid vowels are a, o, and mid-high. Mid-low is e and o, and then low vowels a. Here's a look at the consonantal inventory. It's very typical Indo-Aryan, except that, modern Indo-Aryan, except that we also have dental tsa and ta, which is historically derived from cha and cha. However, we also have cha and ja. So we have these palatal post-alveolar or post-alveolar consonants, which some of them are a result of changes triggered by vowels, high vowels. And then we have this third distinction, which is resulted from the palatal post-alveolar consonants. This is not the focus, but some of these changes have result from vowel changes, vowels are triggered by. So here's some data looking at many different vowel combinations based on features plus high, plus minus high, plus minus back, plus minus ATR, and plus minus round, which can occur in adjacent syllables in polysyllabic words. However, these words that are listed here do not indicate vowel harmony. So you can see you have combinations like ikut, which means solidarity, Udin, mantle, kunyar, loneliness. I have highlighted the vowels that we're looking at in bold. So you have u-a in kunyar, i-a in bichur, which means helpless, kisar, i-a in saffron, and then o-e in bocher, hunger, pokur, which means irrigation basin, vazul, red, earlish, flax or linseed, behar, which means sitting, at the state of sitting, matsar, madness, au in parus, which means last year, burun, both vowels are u, and firin, kumol, two round vowels, u and o, which means soft, kishar, I and a, which means similarity, gunas, geshom, potter, odur, kershur, valam, olond, alond, and sabas. So you have many different vowel combinations. There's no vowel harmony here. But we do see some assimilatory changes in these monosyllabic words. I start with monosyllabic nouns. So you can look at masculine singular, masculine plural, feminine singular, and feminine plural forms of adjectives here. Most of these, not all of them are adjectives. So bod, bird, bird, budge, respectively, for big. And its underlying form would be bud, based on the analyses. Kol, kul, kuj, kaj. The underlying form will be kal, which means broad. Kot, kut, kach, which means child. The underlying form will be cut. Vol, verl, verge, vaj, meaning whole, and the underlying form will be val. Kol, kul, kuj, kaj means mute person, and its underlying form will be kal. Then we look at assimilatory changes in intransitive verbs. I don't think transitivity has anything to do with it, but we started with intransitive data from intransitive verbs, just to see the variety of all the domains, different domains where it occurs, of different environments where it occurs. So we start with gatsun, which means go, infinitive. The different forms. So the verbs are gatsun, kashun, kasun, pion, asun, sapadun, meaning go, rise, fall, be, and happen. So we can look at their different surface forms, morphologically inflected forms: past masculine singular, past feminine singular, past masculine plural, and past feminine plural. And the underlying form is given there, proposed underlying form. Go, gay, gay, gay. Kot, kut, kut, katsı. Pyo, peyi, pey, peyi. Os, ös, ös, ase. Sapud, sapız, sapıd, sapızı. So you can see the different vowels for different vowels in different stems of the same word. So o, and a, etc. Then assimilatory changes in some transitive verbs: marun, kill, kalun, raise, nyun, to take away, chirun, to twist, dun, to give, gavun, to sing. So more, marun, to kill. So in the infinitive form, there is no vowel harmony, even though the following vowel is u in the suffix, in the infinitive suffix u. So marun. But in past masculine singular, we have more, and then in the other forms, it's mer, mer, mari. Kol, kaj, köl, kaj, new, ni, ni, ni. Chur, cheer, cheer, cher. Dut, dit, 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 and dits. Give, 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 and gave. So the underlying forms, proposed underlying forms, are given here in the last column: mar, kal, niv, cheer, dit, and get, respectively. Kashmiri, I want to add that Kashmiri has a very, very rich agreement system. Both subject and object agreement can be expressed on the verb, depending on whether or not there's pro-drop. Both can occur. So that's a topic for a syntactic study, which I've been working on, but just wanted to mention that briefly. The domain of harmony. The domain of vowel harmony in Kashmiri, we can argue, is the final syllable of the stem. This claim is further strengthened by evidence from verbs with multiple suffixes and incorporated subject and object pronominal clitics. Not all, the clitics are not always present, as I just mentioned. They are present if there's pro-drop. So it's a very complex morphology, Kashmiri. In the examples below, the vowel of the masculine and feminine marking suffix, that is u and e respectively, harmonizes not only the object pronominal clitic, but also the causative forming morpheme of the verb. So you can see the different morphological forms here. We start with infinitive, then verb past masculine singular, past feminine singular, the causative verb of masculine singular, causative form of the feminine singular, then causative verb for masculine plural and feminine plural, etc. So there are two verbs listed here: karun, to do, and tulun, to lift. So if we look at their forms from left to right, karun, korum, karum, karunovum, karunevim, karunavum, karunavim, karunavim. So the forms in purple is what we are looking at. Then we have tulun, tulum, tujim, tulunovum, tulunovum, tulunavim, and tulunavim. So if you see the purple part of the words is on what we are looking at. So for example, for kar, you have kor, kur, and kar. Similarly, for tul, you have tul and tul everywhere. Nothing is happening to the verb stem, to the root. But if you look at the causative verb or the causative stem, it's tulnevim, and tulnavim, and so on. So we look at the vowel harmony rules in Kashmiri. Depending upon the feature plus minus round of the vowel alternate, two types of phonological rules are taking place in Kashmiri. Number A is harmonization rule applying on minus round vowels, which is stated as follows. An unrounded vowel is raised and alpha rounded when followed by a vowel, which is plus high and alpha round. For example, A becomes O when it's followed by U, and A becomes when it's followed by E. The other rule is harmonization rule applying on plus round vowel. If the underlying vowel is round, a round vowel is raised and therefore further rounded when followed by a vowel which is plus high. Thus, O, an underlying O, will become U when it's followed by U, and it will become U also when it's followed by E. From the rules above, we assume that while raising harmony is essentially a general rule, the resultant vowel will be minus round only when the underlying vowel is minus round. So if we look at mut, crazy, versus mut, crazy person, masculine and feminine, singular, we have O versus distinction here. However, if you look at the word for thief, zur, masculine singular and feminine singular both have U. So the underlying vowel for crazy person is proposed to be A, and the underlying vowel for thief is proposed to be O, which is also based on, if you look at other Indo-Aryan languages, like the underlying form for that is chor, which becomes tor in Kashmiri, tsa, and then tor will be followed by U and E, and then it will become sur. Thus, we may postulate a generalized phonological rule for vowel raising in Kashmiri, which is a vowel is raised when followed by a vowel which is high. Some historical evidence in terms of the evolution of Kashmiri vowel system. The vowel harmony and evolution of Kashmiri vowel system. This is a comparative analysis here, looking at Kashmiri forms and the Middle Indo-Aryan and Old Indo-Aryan forms. Some words here, just like 4 words. The first word is in Kashmiri is op, which means mean or of low degree. So op, I propose, comes from up plus u, and its feminine form is up. And I propose its form as, underlying form as up plus e, the high vowel. If you look at the Middle Indo-Aryan masculine singular form, it's appa, and the Old Indo-Aryan form is alpa. Pose, which means true, its underlying form is proposed as paju for the masculine, and feminine will be puz, paj-e. Ja becomes za in Kashmiri. Old Indo-Aryan ja becomes za in modern Kashmiri. So it comes from, so if you look at the forms in Middle Indo-Aryan, it's pajja, and Old Indo-Aryan is padya, truth. Modur, masculine singular, sweet, and mother, masculine singular, sorry, feminine singular, sweet. And in the Middle Indo-Aryan form is madhura, and Old Indo-Aryan form also is madhura. Then the next word is push, which means animal. It only has masculine, default masculine form in Kashmiri, singular, push, and pashu will be the underlying form, pashu. And its Old Indo-Aryan form is also pashu. Okay. So in this case, Middle Indo-Aryan A becomes Kashmiri O and Shwa, depending on the context, following context. Then the next set is where we look at Middle Indo-Aryan O becoming Kashmiri U. So then followed by U or E in both these cases. So the first word is the word for lip, which is wood in Kashmiri. Its underlying form is proposed to be O2. The dot is missing here. I'm sorry about that. the Middle Indo-Aryan form is Ota, and Old Indo-Aryan form is Oshta. Oshta. The next word is the word for tur, which comes from choru and or chori for masculine and feminine. Thief, its Middle Indo-Aryan form is chora, and you can also look at chorika. And the Old Indo-Aryan form is chaura. The next word is ghoul, masculine, and guj, feminine, which means kernel. And their underlying forms are proposed to be gol plus u or e. So the Middle Indo-Aryan form for this word is gola, and Old Indo-Aryan form as well. The next word is chukur, masculine, which means young boy, and chukur, feminine, which means young girl. So chukur comes from chokar plus u, and chukur comes from chokar plus e, chokari. Its Middle Indo-Aryan form for masculine is chokara, and the same for Old Indo-Aryan. I think for the feminine, it must be chokari. There are some exceptions, which I have not been able to, I'm not sure what's going on here, but I need to look at it more carefully. These are words where we do not see a distinction between masculine and feminine surface forms. So the word for fat, adjective, is mot, for masculine and feminine as well. We do not say mut. Tot, dwarf or short, and kot, base or impure. Somehow these are all they rhyme, but I don't think that's there's I don't think I should look at more data where they don't necessarily rhyme. It may be a coincidence. So some concluding remarks. This study is, I do need to look at more data and compare with other languages. The vowel part, the vowel inventory part, is one of the main contributions of it in terms of enhancing the vowel inventory of Kashmiri, which is 15 vowels. We have put forth concluding remarks. We put forth evidence that establishes the vowel harmony in Kashmiri is regressive. That means it goes in the backward direction of the word. Leftward assimilation. It is cross-morphemic and it is bound. It differs from cases like Turkish harmony, which is considered to be a prototypical example of vowel harmony in the literature, in that the latter affects all vowels in a Turkish vowel harmony affects all vowels in a polysyllabic word for the feature round. In Kashmiri, however, vowel harmony only affects the stem vowel preceding the trigger vowel. The latter may not be visible on the surface. Vowel harmony in Kashmiri is sensitive to morphology and is triggered by the gender marking suffix with leftward assimilation or regression that stops after affecting the nearest vowel in the stem of the word on the right-hand side. This is different than the progressive vowel harmonies of languages like Turkish or Yavomani, which focus on the vowels of the stems to code the vowels of the affixes. The vowel harmony trigger in Kashmiri is the gender signifying suffixal morpheme u and e, representing masculine and feminine respectively. These represent the opposing plus round and minus round features. The change of the final vowel in the stem is triggered across the morpheme boundary, resulting in rounding and height harmony. However, rounding harmony is blocked on stem vowels that are associated with plus round features. This leaves the vowel a as the most neutral and the most productive vowel in regard to vowel harmony in Kashmiri. The development of Kashmiri palatal and affricate consonants from Middle Indo-Aryan velars, laterals, and dentals is heavily reliant on the properties of the vowels that also trigger vowel harmony. Furthermore, the palatalization and affricatization of the consonants can be mapped to the presence of the feminine marking gender morpheme E, which is also a topic of further study. So that's all. Here are some references that I listed here, and I guess I will exit the screen and we can have some discussions. Thank you very much. Hello?
Yeah, thank you, Sadaf. It's an interesting phenomenon in Kashmiri, of course. It's one of the most important features when it comes to Dardic languages. Now the talk is open for discussion, questions, feedback. Yes, Prabal. Yeah, Sadaf, can you please stop sharing the screen?
Yeah, stop. Should I say stop presenting or
stop presenting? Stop
presenting, okay.
So that we can see you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, hi Sadaf. How far back does this go? I mean, in terms of the documentation of Kashmiri, does Vowel Harmony start in, when does it start in the documents? You have it in modern Kashmiri, but do you have it in the 15th century, etc., etc.?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question.
Does Vowel Harmony start around 1500, around 1200, or very recently in Kashmiri?
I don't, the oldest data that we have on Kashmiri, like attested data, I guess it started much earlier. At least the data that we have, the earliest data that we have is from Lal Ded's poetry, oral literature.
And does that show Vowel Harmony?
Yes, yes.
Okay. It goes back way to the beginning of Kashmiri as we know it. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, beginning of modern Kashmiri, I'm pretty sure, because when we look at oral literature, oral poetry mostly, which is from 15th century, earliest records that we have, 15th century, or maybe a little earlier than that, all of that has vowel harmony. But if we look at in poetry, we can, I want to look at more data. I want to look at more poetry, because in poetry, we can reconstruct forms where we have these vowels, that trigger vowels are still there.
Okay, wonderful.
I was just looking at, for example, mot, which means mad person or crazy person. If you look at some of the poetry, it has these vocative and dative and other forms, motye, mutuye, and matyo. If you look at the vocative form, matyo, oh, crazy person.
Okay.
So in oh, crazy person, which is the vocative, you can say matyo, and then o is again becoming ah. So yeah, we can what is it? Resurrect these forms from that.
Wonderful, thank you.
Indranil, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Sadaf. Sorry, I missed a lot of the details because I was walking to work, so I didn't get to see the slide. But typically, I just
Indranil, we can't hear you properly.
Can you hear me now?
It's better, but little bit more volume, please. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. So I was, thank you so much. The data sounded amazing. I didn't see your slides. I was wondering, two things. I kind of heard you mention that there was a kind of an opaque vowel, right? Typically, vowel harmony languages tend to have an opaque vowel, which kind of blocks the process. And most of South Asia, we don't tend to have languages which have transparent vowels similar to, let's say, Finnish. So I was wondering if I missed something in terms of, is there a vowel which is kind of opaque to the process? And secondly, I didn't get a chance to hear if there were trisyllabic. Did you have examples? Sorry, I sort of may have missed that. But you have sort of trisyllabic, or I guess you should be able to, right? Because you have such rich morphology, and So yeah, yeah. So thank you.
Yeah. So the high vowels like U and E will not change if there's a, so for example, if the preceding syllable has a high vowel U or E, those will not change by the following vowel. They'll just stay there as such. But rest of the vowels will get raised and rounded or unrounded. So the most neutral vowel that does, like most transparent vowel, I would say, it will be A, the central low vowel. The high vowels O and so the high vowels U and E will not will not undergo any change if there's environment for the change. The second thing that you were asking about was the trisyllabic forms. So I started with monosyllabic, surface monosyllabic words, which were not underlyingly monosyllabic. They were underlyingly disyllabic at least. And then I looked at disyllabic and trisyllabic words. Most of the Kashmiri does not have a very rich, I mean, it does not, the syllable, 3 or 4 syllables you can find, but it also undergoes it undergoes deletion of vowels in open syllables. So sometimes it's hard. But in verbs, where we see different forms, like regular past and then transitive, intransitive verbs, both intransitive and intransitive verbs, then you can see the causative forms, which are more complex in terms of number of syllables. So they have more syllables and they also undergo vowel harmony. But as I said, the domain of harmony is always the syllable preceding the trigger vowel, which the trigger vowel may not be present on the surface actually. But it may be present in some cases when you have a following consonant. For example, karnovum, ovum. So you have there, which is triggering the O, but karnavyam, A. So A is becoming O or A, karnavam, karnovum, karnavyam. So based on what is in with the vowel in the M, that is triggering the change. But in case of kor, for example, kor and kar did, which is only one morpheme, sorry, only one syllable, its underlying form is karu and kari, where the following vowel has been deleted from the surface, but it still shows those under the changes on the surface. Does it answer your question, Indranil?
Yes, thank you so much. So the opacity is kind of similar to what happens in Mongolian. In Mongolian too, you have the high front vowel in half Mongolian. The high front vowel is basically opaque to the process. Yeah, and you know, unlike Bangla and Assamese.
I would like to look at Mongolian as well. If I would probably get in touch with you for any further references.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So great. Thank you so much. It was great.
You.
Yeah, and good to see you too.
Good to see you.
Yeah, Vipasha has raised here. Vipasha?
Yeah. Hello, Professor Munshi. This is Vipasa Patgiri. I teach linguistics in Assam and speak Assamese. As you know, it has extensive system of vowel harmony, and as Professor Indranil Doctor has said, in Assamese also the A vowel, the low vowel is opaque. It blocks the harmony in Assamese. And it's very great to see that modern Kashmiri also behaves in the same way. So poles apart in the Indian subcontinent, but some similarities are there. My question, Professor, is on the phonemic vowel inventory of modern Kashmiri. You have shown that there are phonemic length in most of the vowels, but except the minus ATR, mid, low, A and O.
Yeah.
And also the front mid-high vowel lacks a short counterpart. Is there any diachronic reason behind this? Because all other vowels have systematically been shown as having length distinction, except the mid-low. But only exception I could see in the mid-high vowel where there is no short counterpart. Is it because of some diachronic change or the vowel harmony pattern or something else?
No, it is because of some diachronic changes. I will need to look at the data for that, but I do know that these are, for example, O and E. These are a result of some of the vowel changes that have happened in certain contexts, probably unstressed contexts. I need to revisit my data because it's been a long time I've looked at them, maybe almost 20 years. But yes, it is because of historical changes. We have I, U, but we also have O, and then we have only O. But in the front vowels, we have E and A and E. So I think we have only one distinction in the front vowel, mid-high vowel. I forgot. So that is because of a phonetically conditioned change. So it's an allophone. There is both E and E, but one of them is phonetically conditioned. So we don't have that distinction in the. Let me just open that. I wanted to look at that, which one it is.
Yeah, it's vowel, phonemic vowel inventory.
So in the mid-high front vowel, we have only A, but not A, because A and E are allophones of one single phoneme. But in the back vowels, we have O and O, as well as O. So we have 3 distinctions there, but in the front vowel, we have 2 distinctions there. E and O, which are mid-low vowels, front and back respectively, they are a result of a historical change.
Professor, I just want to continue what I just asked. One more short question, that the length distinction was present in earlier form of Kashmiri before also, or they are like allophonic change, and then they might have undergone some phonemic split.
The length distinction was there, but these other vowels are evolved. The central vowels have evolved, like the length distinction is historical. I mean, it was there, but the central vowel was not there. So it becomes sometimes. So those vowel quality, change in the vowel quality in terms of whether it's central, front, or something, or mid-high, mid-low, those things have changed. But the length distinction is not a result of, it's inherited from Indo-Aryan.
And there is no nasalization now.
There is nasalization in Kashmiri, but it's it's not, there's a handful of words that have nasalization. Yeah, there is a nasalization, but it's not very productive. It's because of deletion of nasals, and that it would have a conditional change, but if once the environment is lost, then you can say it's phonemicized.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Professor. Thank you for insightful comments. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Kavita.
Yeah, ma'am. Am I audible to ma'am?
Yes.
Thank you so much, ma'am, first of all. And ma'am, I would like to say that I'm a very young child, so I would like to know only one thing, that could you please suggest me any book which is related to Kashmiri language or grammar, so I can read more about that?
Well, if you're looking at, I don't know what aspect of Kashmiri, if you're looking at the grammar, there's work by Omkarnath Kaul, there's work by Bhatt, Rakesh Mohan Bhatt. If you're looking at the historical work on Kashmiri, there's not much published literature, but there's my thesis and there some of my work. I don't think anyone has done any serious historical research on Kashmiri other than myself. So you can get in touch with me and let me know what specific aspects of Kashmiri you're interested in. And there's other work by Rajesh Bhatt has worked on syntax with me, some syntactic aspects of Kashmiri with me. So there are some papers that we have, 1 or 2 papers that we have published. You can look at those as well. And there are some co-authored works as well.
Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am. And thank you once again, ma'am, for giving me chance. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah. Deepak More.
Thank you for the wonderful presentation, Munshi, Professor Munshi. I might have missed out your initial remarks on vowel harmony. I'm curious about the direction of it. whether it is progressive and regressive. Regressive being a very productive cross-linguistically. I was just wondering if you have some instances of progressive vowel harmony in Kashmiri. If progressive, what are the kinds of vowel which are involved in it? Thank you.
It's not progressive, it's a regressive. It is induced by a suffix, and the vowels, all vowels can be affected except that the high vowels cannot be, the high vowels, E and U, which do not get changed, because it's typically a raising vowel harmony, but also rounding based on whether the following vowel is round or not. But if underlying vowel is unrounded, then it will become round. If it's already round, then it cannot become unrounded. So that's what I mentioned earlier. The domain of harmony is just the preceding syllable, the stem vowel.
Okay, so it is exclusively regressive.
Yes. I was looking at other languages. I've been working on Burushaski and Mankiali, and I found some instances of changes where we could say they also have some kind of vowel harmony, but I need to look at them more in depth. It's a very interesting topic.
Yeah, thank you. It's quite interesting. Thank you so much.
Yes, we have another question from Pallav Vishnu.
Thank you, madam. Professor, it was wonderful hearing this particular lecture which you have given on Kashmiri. Madam, I want to ask one question regarding the impact of supra-segmentals when we are going to formulate the constructions in Kashmiri language, which is just similar to in Hindi language or any of the Indian languages. We find out when we are using formulating certain structures, we find a special impact of the supra-segmentals in the case of word level to the sentence level. Can we see these similar occurrences in the Kashmiri language as well?
That would be outside the scope of this particular paper, but well, I guess so. It's in terms of supra-segmentals, you will have vowel length and nasalization and what else?
It is tone, pitch, juncture, stress, etc., intonation, etc.
Yeah, I have not looked at that, but I'm sure that would be an interesting topic to study.
Yeah, it seems to be like that because in very many constructions made, as you have suggested in your paper, that very many constructions in the case of phonemic structures that seems to be very much near to the supra-segmentation. And when we construct all the structures, they are going to be very much evident, just like all the other Indian languages. That is very much impactful, madam. I hope so.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I understood what relevance that has on this particular, because this is not, vowel harmony is not necessarily a supra-segmentally influenced change, but I will look at it. I will look in that.
Okay. Thank you, madam. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Indranil again.
Yeah, nothing. Just to let Sadaf know that I just mailed you our.
Yeah, I got it.
So yeah, so we have a poster coming up. It may not be exactly the purpose for that work was different, but I hope it's helpful. Yeah, and I'm excited to see. If the presentation that you have right now, is it a paper?
With anyone who's looking at, I'm going to share my paper with anyone who's looking at vowel harmony, and if you have any feedback or suggestions.
Please do. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions or feedback or comments?
Professor Munshi, some of our students are taking up vowel harmonies as there is a stopping in different Indian languages.
Mm-hmm.
It would be really great if you could share with the organizer or a link over here so we can suggest them it as a reading.
I will email a reading list to Uma. Is that okay? Who
Yes.
should I email it to?
Yeah. I mean, you can send it directly to Deepak. Of course, you can send it to me. I can also.
Deepak, send me an email and I'll send it to you.
Yeah, sure.
you can CC it to me. If anyone else is interested, they can approach, because that would
Yeah,
also-
okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a lot of references, and if anyone has any additional references, you can add those.
yeah.
Yeah, if you
And,
could kindly send it, that would be, quite beneficial for us
Sadaf,
students.
you can also put your email on the chat box for
Yes.
anyone who wants to get in touch.
Yeah,
with
in case you forget, I can remind you.
Yes, here is my email, and just send me an email and I'll send it to you.
you. Yes. So
Yeah, great, great, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
any other questions? I have a couple of questions if no one
Yeah,
is asking.
Sure.
I just thought like I should wait
Yeah.
till everyone finishes.
Yeah.
Of course, it is an interesting talk, and it stimulated a lot of discussions we had. So many questions. I'm also wondering about two things. Number one, what role consonants have, or how they play, because it's very complicated in Kashmiri. I remember working with Professor Mumkarnath Paul for 1 year on Kashmiri, and it was very difficult for me, being a Dravidian, to grasp the sounds. And so what role the consonants have, because is there any consonant that blocks vowel harmony, number one? And I
Yeah,
asked-
consonants don't block vowel
they don't
harmony.
block.
In fact, consonants are also changed by some of these vowels.
And is there any influence of the consonant? Anything, for example, a roundness feature or anything from a consonant that has an impact on the following vowel?
The preceding vowel. So because
Yeah.
it's regressive.
Oh yeah,
So,
regressive.
I
Yeah.
don't think so. The data that I've looked at a lot of data. I didn't show you all the data today, but I have a lot of data, and I have not seen any blocking by any consonant so far. I've seen some examples where I listed 3 or 4 examples, like mot, kot, thought, where vowel harmony is not occurring, and I need to further see if what's going on there in those examples. So it will be interesting to see if any role is played by the t vowel, which is just I don't think yeah, I don't think it's the terse consonant. I'm not saying vowel. Yeah, I don't think, because I have other examples in my mind where the t consonant occurs and there is vowel harmony. So I'll look at it, but I doubt there's anything consonant related. Consonants are in fact impacted by vowels themselves. For example, l becomes ja, k becomes cha, by following high front vowel, which may not necessarily be the feminine. It may not be morphophonologically influenced. So vowel harmony in Kashmiri is morphophonologically influenced. That means not all high front vowels or high back vowels induce harmony. It's only the masculine and feminine suffix. But in case of these consonantal changes, I think it's purely phonological, and it doesn't matter what kind of, whether it's a suffix or not. So I've seen a lot of words where palatalization is occurring. L becomes ja, ja becomes sha, tsa becomes cha. The other consonantal changes that we have seen historically in Kashmiri are the palatal affricates becoming dental affricates. So cha becomes sa, ja becomes za. But not everywhere. It's very interesting. I need to see whether or not there's any conditioning environment where only sometimes it happens and not everywhere else. Yes, palatalization is a very, very productive process in Kashmiri, and I have a lot of data that I've looked at. I've not published the paper, but there's a lot of work I've done on palatalization in Kashmiri. Thank you, Indranil.
Yeah, one more question from me. How about the problem of vowel disharmony? Are there any words that violate the harmony constraints? If not in native words, at least maybe in loan words.
Loan words would be mostly. I have not seen. I have not seen vowel disharmony as far as. Yeah, I'll have to look at that more. I don't. The only cases where I looked at was where I saw the exceptions were nouns or adjectives, but I haven't looked at verbs. So it would be interesting to look at verbs or borrowed verbs, what happens. Most of the verbs that are borrowed are compounds of noun plus verb form. That means the verb form will be a modal or auxiliary, which will be from Kashmiri itself, so that will undergo harmony. But then the preceding word will be a noun, so it will be a noun plus verb construction. And so it doesn't matter because we only are looking at the final syllable. So it wouldn't be blocked then. Most of the verbs that are borrowed. For nouns, yeah, I haven't. Yeah, for nouns we don't. So it all depends on whether or not there is an underlying suffix. If words do not have underlying suffix, because there are. So if you look at Old Indo-Aryan, Middle Indo-Aryan, Modern Indo-Aryan languages, there are nouns and adjective nouns that have a plural, have a gender marking suffix, and there are nouns which do not have a suffix. They are they have a zero marking suffix. So it would be interesting to look at them. I don't think harmony happens in those where there's no surface suffix.
There is a related question from Indranil in the chat box. Do verbal and nominal paradigms harmonize differently?
Hold on. Say, Indranil said they are not harmonizing. So do verbal and nominal paradigms harmonize differently? So in nominals, if you do not have, so nominals can be, when we look at when the gender was reassigned so we had a neuter gender and we had masculine, feminine, and neuter gender historically, and then the gender was realigned for some of the words. There are words from Old Indo-Aryan that have no surface marker for masculine or feminine. For example, if you look at, let me think, pustak, okay? Pustak is underlyingly feminine. It does not have a feminine marker, right? Pustak is book, right? It does not have a surface feminine marker. It's a feminine noun, but it does not have a surface feminine marker. But a word like bacha and bachi, right? Bacha has a masculine marker and bachi has e feminine marker. So in those cases, okay, good. So in those cases, we have a surface marker for gender. But in case of pustak, it does not have, it has a zero gender marker. So it will be interesting to look at those. So I guess that those are the exceptions where there is no surface marker for gender.
Yeah, thank you. One more question from me, sorry, and that's the last question from my side. So it's because I was just wondering, since you said there are less works, especially from the historical perspective of Kashmiri, I was also wondering, would it be interesting to perform a statistical analysis, especially for vowel harmony, because very few works are there, and we have a Kashmiri corpus, of course, to look into the patterns and do. I mean, of course, it has to be done by a team. So wouldn't it be interesting to undertake a statistical analysis of vowel harmony and to see exactly what is happening in different structures? Because most of the times only a grammatical word or a morphological word cannot give us a real picture compared to prosody, and also to if we can have some evidence from a larger database and to see how things are happening, because most of the questions people were asking was, is this present or that present or what's happening? I thought like now wouldn't it be good to enrich this work with some kind of statistical analysis?
Yeah, I personally do not, I'm not an expert on statistical analysis. I haven't done, I mostly do historical, descriptive, and other kinds of work. but if there's anyone who's interested and we can collaborate on that, and I'm sure I'll be happy to share my data and other analyses, and sure, why not? if there's interest, why not?
I'm not sure, but since you're already in Srinagar, I do not know whether you are in touch with Adil Kak. They do some computational work. Maybe I do not know whether they do any corpus analysis. Maybe you can just have a talk with them, and like we can see who else can be roped in to do this kind of work. It's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I will mention this to Adil if I want to meet him, or in email. Yeah, we can try to explore that.
Yeah, thank you. So any other questions or comments? All right, so I think
Thank you very much.
yeah, I should thank you for this excellent talk. So number one, it's so sweet of you, despite your tight schedule in India, you agreed to our request, and of course
Yeah.
we thought like you would be able to visit us personally.
I
Maybe
hope so.
we will see, that is a different thing, but this was an excellent talk. Like people, at least because very few talks are being held in Kashmiri, or not on Kashmiri. Of course we also want to hear in Kashmiri also, but from that perspective, I really thank you on behalf of the CIL and on my own personal behalf for accepting our invitation,
Thank you very much.
contributing to this lecture series. This lecture will be available online, and many more people will benefit. And since your email is also put there, I believe people can get directly in touch with you. I also take this opportunity to thank all of you who are present here, especially senior professors like Prabal Das Gupta and many colleagues from CIL and other places for your wonderful interactions. Thank you once again. So do you want to say anything, Sadaf?
Thank you very much. I'm really glad to be here with all of you. I also wish we were in person, but I'm really happy to see all of you and some of my senior colleagues and people I have known for a long time. And it was really good to reconnect. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, Oma, and for inviting me and having me here on this forum. It was a pleasure with talking to you all.
Thank you. Thank you once again, and have a lovely time in India.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.